So I have, I think most people who follow my show agree with me. It's not just me saying it. It's Jack Posobiec who said it before me. Get out of the cities. But there are a lot of people, they like doing this thing where they say, it's easy for you to say, Tim, you're successful and you're wealthy. I'll tell everybody on this show, it costs, let me ask you, how much do you think it costs to have internet in this building where we are?
Well, you have a lot going on here. This isn't just your average internet. I mean, you operate your company through here.
The internet we have is equal to or less than home internet in New York or Philly or any major city. It cost $3,000 per month, and I believe it was about $30,000 up front to build the infrastructure. I could have purchased a building in New York, in the outskirts of New York, or in Austin, or in one of these liberal cities, and it would cost me $100 per month to have the internet. But I decided a few things. The cities are getting out of control. Mm-hmm. My vote has less of an impact. I don't want to build an economic system in a place where the beneficiaries are evil people. Mm-hmm. So we initially wanted to build all this in New Jersey, in the South Jersey area, which is moderate. It's moderate to conservative. We had Jeff Van Drew, who switched from Democrat to Republican. We weren't in his district, but we're in this area. And I said, this is an opportunity to push back. The problem, though, is all the tax money we generate would be going to very evil people.
That's right.
And so ultimately I said, with the crime, with the riots, we need to go somewhere else. Now, we're still about an hour away from Washington, D.C., from Baltimore, so we're still in a relatively metropolitan area. But we're now in a right-leaning purple area where our employees who move here, our votes help push back the influence from the cities into a red state. People need to understand this about West Virginia. It's the second most Trump-supporting state in the country, but in the Eastern Panhandle, liberals from D.C. are moving here as refugees to get away from their own bad policies and then voting for it here. Ugh. So we've got to have some pushback. So I know that not everybody can do this. Not everybody can leave where they are. It's very, very difficult. But we really do need people to consider, to whatever extent, it may be one of the most difficult things you've ever done in your life, but to go to a place where your vote has a huge impact.
I never thought of that. Moving so that your vote is more powerful. I never thought of that.
If all the people who live in Southern California who know that we are right moved to Arizona and voted for you, you'd win in a landslide.
They did.
A lot of them did. But imagine if all of them did.
I'm going to try not to get you canceled today. I've had a lot of people canceled, and I agree with you 100%.
There's a lot of conservatives in Eastern California going up all the state, Tulare County, for example, and they're being mercilessly beaten by Democrat policies.
But you know what's even bigger that's happening right now? The conservatives are with us. We're seeing Democrats flee. When you lose the Democrats and they go, whoa, this is not the Democrat Party I thought it was. Or they, and I think this is one of the reasons the left is not encouraging people to start families because they know something changes in you when you have a child, when you start a family. Your priorities are less about me and more about how can I protect my family.
I've been tweeting about this. When you get married or have kids, you are more likely to become conservative. Mm-hmm. And it goes both ways, actually. If you are conservative, you're raised conservative, more likely to have kids. If you're raised liberal and have kids, you start adopting conservative policies. I wonder why that is.
You have to, because it's common sense policies. That's what it is. And, they've called me every name in the book: extreme, right wing, far right. So far we have been right about everything. But I would just challenge people, don't get caught up in that. Look at the policies. This is why I'm so impressed with President Trump right now. And I was so angry that the town hall didn't concentrate on his policies. And I guess the only little criticism or suggestion I would have made to him is to pivot away from her hostile line of questioning and bias toward his policies, to say, you know what, you really want to keep talking about the past. I want to talk about Agenda 47, which is going to strengthen our families, and this is how. We're going to bring down the housing prices so that young people can afford to buy and build a home. We're going to increase the funding that goes to our police departments so that our streets are safe. Here's what we're going to do in schools to make sure they're not indoctrinating our kids. You have to, with these people, pivot them away from their own insanity.
And it was an opportunity, too. I mean, this is why I was saying...
His policies are great. I wish people were hearing about them. And the media is never going to ask him about that. They have to keep beating the drum of this other stuff. So to say he's stuck in the past, he's not stuck in the past. He's looking toward the future. He knows that we're going to turn things around. It doesn't seem like it's possible because Joe Biden has dropped us off a cliff, but we can pick up the pieces. And I believe with everything I've got in my body, every single fiber of my being, we can turn things around and actually be better.
This is why I said right when we started, I was like, before the show started, I said, I'm going to go heavy. You should be VP. And the reason is messaging. You have so many viral moments where you turned the media's trick back on themselves, onto them. So one example I think of in terms of this town hall is, if it were me and I was sitting there and Caitlin Collins said, I want to ask you about 2020. I would say, look, I'm not the president right now. I want to be the president in 2024 because the economy needs help, the border. And then when she goes, no, I want to go back to 2020, I'd say, why are you so obsessed with 2020? Don't you think
Caitlin, don't live in the past.
That's exactly
young
it.
Lady.
Turn it on.
Don't live in the past. That's great.
Yep.
That's
Say,
great.
don't you think we should be talking about the concerns of the American people? But I want to ask you about things you've said. If you really want to talk about it, I mean, I think we should be servicing the American people, not playing to the whims of the media.
Oh man, and it would turn the whole thing right back at them,
Right.
throw it in their face, and they wouldn't know what to do.
But you have those moments. There's so many clips that have gone viral of you doing just that.
This is why I don't think they'll ever invite me on The View or MSNBC. I ran into Mika and Joe, Morning Joe, in the airport. I was in Florida about a
Really?
month and a half ago, and it went viral. My husband said, "Is that Joe Scarborough?" And I said, "Oh my gosh!" I did a U-turn, followed him down the escalator. I mean, we were kind of right in the same area. I said, "Joe, hey Joe, how are you?" And he turned around. He was heading into the men's room. He goes, "Hey," and he was actually really nice. I said, "I just wanted to introduce myself. I've never met you in person. You guys spend a lot of time bad-mouthing me on your show, and I wanted you to actually meet me and just meet the human being behind the name."
That's great.
And he was actually rather nice about it. Mika started recording me and was not very friendly. Their handler said, "You're a liar. You're delusional." She was saying that kind of stuff to me. And I said, "No, actually, I've never lied. I've never lied about, November 8th. I've always been truthful." And it was just interesting, but she was recording me.
That's so weird.
Mika was recording me. I said, "Are you recording me?" And she goes, "Yes." And Joe said, "Don't do that." I mean, he was like mad at her.
That's amazing.
But we ended up putting this out and it went viral.
Yep.
You just have to
I think you do a
just
really
call
great
these
job with
people
this
out.
stuff.
We're just human beings. They're a human being as well.
Yeah.
But they're being paid
Well,
to
I
do.
think-
They're being paid to push that agenda. And when you think about it, can you imagine being paid to push an agenda
I know
that goes against our country?
I've experienced working for companies that have tried to do this. When I worked for Fusion, which was ABC News, Univision's joint venture, I said, "Look, I report the news." And they said, for the first 8 months or so, they were like, do your thing, report the news. And then at some point, they brought in a new editor-in-chief whose Twitter profile was down with whiteness. And they said, "We want to side with the audience." And my attitude to these people was, look, I'm going to go on the ground. I'm going to tell you what I see. I'm going to talk to people, ask them how they feel. I'm going to show you what the police are doing. That's it. I am not going to lie. And that's what they wanted. I asked the president of this company, when he told me this, side with the audience, I said, "Are you telling me that if there is a factual news story, but it would offend our audience, we won't cover it?" He said, I think that's fair, yeah. And I was like, ultimately, I won't do this, and I think I should leave the company. And they wouldn't let me because I signed a contract. And they were like,
They
well,
owned you.
no.
That's like Tucker Carlson. They own him. Thank God he's going to be able to pull away from that.
They wanted to sign me for 3 years. I said 2. And they were like, well, 3 years is really for you. It's a lot of money. And I was like, well, we'll do 2 years. And I was right. Because 8 months in, they said, we're going to go full woke. And I said, I'm just here to report the news. So ultimately, what ends up happening is for a year, I basically stagnate. Golden handcuffs, they call it.
Yep.
They wanted to
understand
report.
that.
Yep.
Worked in the media for a long time.
That you sign the contract, and then if you don't report what they want, they put you in the janitor's closet and say, you're under contract.
This is what I think they did with Tucker. They knew they couldn't have that voice of reason out there speaking going up to the election. He wasn't for the war in Ukraine. He was he was inviting MAGA type guests on. And by MAGA, let's remind people what it stands for: Make America Great Again. If you're not for making America great again,
what are you for?
What are you for?
Yeah. Open borders.
Exactly.
Well, they're coming after us now. This is an interesting week for us. I don't know if
No, I haven't heard what.
in the well, a couple things. One, the shooter in Texas, they found this Russian profile where he had posted 4 clips of one episode. So what do? They report he was a fan of the show,
I did hear that. Okay.
despite the fact it was one episode and he wasn't even a subscriber, because they're lying. Then we had,
They got to bring you down somehow because you know what? You're too powerful.
well, people are saying, look, we don't get nearly as many views as Tucker does, but we do get comparable views in the key demographic, and we're on at the same time as him. So Tucker gets nuked from Fox